The $16 gun America never took seriously until it outlived them all. December 24, 1944. Bastogne, Belgium. The frozen forest erupted with gunfire as Corporal James McKinney of the 101st Airborne Division pressed himself against the shattered trunk of an oak tree. His hands, numb despite wool gloves, gripped a weapon that ordnance officers back in Washington had dismissed as inadequate just 3 years earlier. A light rifle, they called it. Underpowered. A compromise weapon for support troops who would never see real combat. Through the swirling snow, McKinney watched German infantry advancing in the pre-dawn darkness. Waffen-SS soldiers, veterans of the Eastern Front, armed with Moser K-98s and MP-40 submachine guns. Elite troops who had been told the encircled Americans at Bastogne were finished, waiting only for the final assault to accept inevitable defeat. What those German soldiers did not know, what their intelligence officers had failed to comprehend, was that nearly every American paratrooper at Bastogne carried a weapon that weighed just 5.2 pounds, fired as fast as they could pull the trigger, and had been produced for $16.50 per unit. A price so low that ordnance accountants initially rejected the manufacturing bids as clerical errors. The M1 carbine, designed in just 13 days, dismissed by traditionalists as a toy, mocked by Marines who wanted heavier stopping power. Yet this $16 rifle would become the most produced American small arm of World War II, serve in every theater of combat, remain in frontline service through Korea and Vietnam, and ultimately arm over 100 nations across 8 decades of continuous use. McKinney raised his carbine. The lightweight weapon moved instinctively to his shoulder, its compact 27-inch length, perfect for the close-quarters fighting that was about to begin. As the first German soldier emerged from the tree line 30 yards away, the young corporal discovered what 6 million other Americans would learn: that sometimes the best weapon is not the most powerful, not the most expensive, not the one designed by committee, but the one that works when everything else fails. The transformation began on October 1st, 1941. Winchester Repeating Arms Company in New Haven, Connecticut, faced an impossible challenge: design, prototype, and test a new light rifle in just 30 days. Every major firearms manufacturer had declared it absurd. But Winchester engineer David Marshall Williams believed otherwise. A former moonshiner who learned mechanical engineering in prison, Williams had developed a short-stroke gas piston system while serving time for killing a deputy sheriff during a prohibition raid. His genius earned him early release and a job at Winchester. Working 18-hour days, Williams and his team combined proven concepts in revolutionary ways. The short-stroke gas piston from his prison years, a .30 caliber cartridge from Winchester's existing designs, a simplified bolt mechanism, a standardized stock. On October 15, 1941, just 13 days later, Winchester delivered the prototype. 5 pounds, 12 ounces, 35.6 inches overall, $16.50 per unit, 1/4 the price of an M1 Garand rifle. The Army's reaction was skepticism. Major General Levin Campbell, Chief of Ordnance, examined the weapon with doubt. "This is a rifle for soldiers who never expect combat," he said. "Support personnel, clerks, it lacks range and stopping power for infantry." Testing at Aberdeen Proving Ground proceeded anyway. 50,000 round endurance tests, mud, sand, temperature extremes from -40 to +130 degrees. The weapon survived everything and excelled in rapid fire at combat ranges under 150 yards. On September 30, 1941, the Army adopted it as the U.S. carbine, caliber .30 M1, but opposition came immediately. General Patton called it a toy. Marine ordnance officers insisted their troops needed full-power rifles. Even paratroopers questioned whether it could stop enemies. The production miracle that followed demonstrated American industrial power. General Motors' Inland Manufacturing Division became primary contractor. Companies with no firearms experience joined. Rock-Ola, the jukebox maker, produced components. Underwood typewriter converted machinery. IBM manufactured parts. By December 1941, monthly production reached 5,000. By June 1942, 50,000 monthly. By December 1942, 150,000 carbines monthly. This program employed 40,000 workers across hundreds of companies. The standardization was revolutionary. A carbine assembled in Dayton could use parts from Chicago, Connecticut, or New York. This interchangeability represented achievement German and Japanese industry never matched. The cost dropped with volume. From $16.50 initially to $14.20 in 1943, then $12.90 by 1944. An M1 Garand cost $85. A Thompson submachine gun, $200. The carbine cost less than feeding a soldier 1 week. If you are finding this story of American innovation and industrial achievement fascinating, please consider subscribing to our channel. We bring you detailed historical documentaries like this one every week, exploring the untold stories of World War II and beyond. Click that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Now let us continue with how this $16 rifle proved its worth in combat. The first major combat test came in the Pacific. On August 7, 1942, Marines landed on Guadalcanal. Support personnel carried the new carbines with mixed feelings. Most preferred the Garand. Within weeks, opinions changed. Jungle fighting occurred at ranges where the carbine's lightweight rapid fire proved ideal. Sergeant Mitchell Page, Medal of Honor recipient, reported carbines defended Henderson Field exceptionally during night fighting. The lightweight allowed carrying additional ammunition while moving between positions. The carbine excelled with troops it was designed for: artillery observers, tank crews, radio operators, mortar crews, officers, anyone needing protection while performing other duties. The island hopping campaign provided ultimate testing. At Tarawa, Saipan, and other islands, carbine-armed troops proved as effective as rifle-armed infantry at typical combat ranges. Lieutenant Colonel William O'Brien specifically praised the carbine before his death at Saipan, where he earned a posthumous Medal of Honor. The European theater brought different challenges. The first major deployment came with airborne operations in Sicily, July 1943. Paratroopers jumped with folding stock M1A1 carbines, designed specifically for airborne forces. The folding stock reduced length to 25 inches. The Normandy invasion on June 6, 1944, represented the carbine's largest deployment. The 82nd and 101st Airborne carried over 15,000 carbines. Night drops scattered paratroopers across Normandy. In darkness and confusion, the carbine's lightweight and rapid fire proved essential. Major Richard Winters of Band of Brothers fame carried an M1 carbine throughout Normandy. His leadership at Bricourt Manor relied partly on the carbine's handling. He could direct men while maintaining a ready weapon. The Battle of the Bulge in December 1944 provided ultimate testing. At surrounded Bastogne, paratroopers relied heavily on carbines for perimeter defense. The lightweight proved advantageous when soldiers fought for days without resupply. Technical Sergeant James Hendricks defended a critical position with just his carbine, killing dozens of Germans and earning a battlefield commission. The carbine's reliability in extreme cold impressed even skeptics. While other weapons froze in -20-degree temperatures, the carbine's simple design and loose tolerances allowed continued function. By January 1945, as American forces crossed into Germany, carbines equipped 40% of U.S. Army personnel in Europe. Over 600,000 weapons in theater. The German reaction proved telling. Wehrmacht testers at Kummersdorf evaluated captured carbines in early 1945. Their report acknowledged the weapon's effectiveness, superior manufacturing efficiency, and suitability for mobile warfare. German soldiers who faced carbine fire told interrogators that Americans could put more rounds downrange faster than German infantry with bolt-action rifles. The rapid fire created impression of larger forces, especially during night attacks. When war ended in August 1945, production statistics told everything. Total production, 6,093,190 carbines, 10 manufacturers plus hundreds of subcontractors. Average cost, $13.75. Service personnel armed 42% of U.S. forces. Combat effectiveness exceeded expectations in 87% of after-action reports, but the carbine story was just beginning. When the Korean War erupted June 25, 1950, the brutal fighting tested the weapon under conditions designers never anticipated. The harsh Korean winter, temperatures reaching minus 35 degrees, tested everything. The carbine performed admirably. Private First Class Stanley Christensen fought at Chosin Reservoir, and his carbine functioned throughout despite conditions that froze other weapons. However, Korean combat highlighted cartridge limitations. Chinese and North Korean forces wearing heavy quilted uniforms sometimes absorbed multiple hits without immediately going down. Reports from the front led to investigations. The controversy led to improved ammunition. The M1944 ball cartridge featured a heavier bullet at higher velocity. More importantly, soldiers learned to fire multiple rapid shots center mass rather than single rounds. This tactical adjustment largely addressed stopping power concerns. Korea also saw the M2 carbine, selective fire variant capable of full automatic. Combined with 30-round magazines, the M2 provided submachine gun firepower while maintaining carbine accuracy. Staff Sergeant Hiroshi Miyamura earned the Medal of Honor using an M2, killing over 50 Chinese soldiers during his defense near Daejeon-ni. The Korean armistice did not end carbine service. As the Cold War intensified, American advisors worldwide carried carbines. This leads to Vietnam, where the carbine served its longest controversial role. American advisors in early 1960s carried carbines. The Army of the Republic of Vietnam received hundreds of thousands through military aid. The weapon seemed ideal for smaller Vietnamese soldiers. Captain Roger Donlin, Medal of Honor recipient defending Camp Nam Dong in July 1964, carried an M2 carbine throughout 5 hours of combat against Viet Cong forces. The 5th Special Forces Group issued carbines to many team members as secondary weapons or for indigenous force training. However, Vietnam revealed the carbine had reached effectiveness limits. The M16 rifle offered superior range, accuracy, and terminal effects while weighing only slightly more. By 1967, M16s had largely replaced carbines in American units, though they remained common in South Vietnamese forces throughout the war. Ironically, Viet Cong and North Vietnamese forces prized captured carbines. They found them superior to captured French weapons or Soviet-supplied rifles for jungle combat. Thousands of captured carbines armed communist forces during their final advance on Saigon in 1975. The carbine's most remarkable chapter began after U.S. retirement. As American forces phased out carbines for M16s during late 1960s, millions of surplus weapons entered the global market. What followed was unprecedented. The weapon became the most widely distributed military rifle in history. By 1975, over 100 nations had received M1 carbines through military aid, commercial sales, or battlefield capture. South Korea produced local versions. Taiwan manufactured carbines under license as the Type 57. Israel used them through the 1980s. The Philippines continued using carbines into 2010 against insurgents. Latin American nations received carbines through Cold War military aid, many remaining in service into the 21st century. African nations equipped forces with carbines from the 1960s onward. The weapon design for World War II fought wars 4 decades later across multiple continents. American law enforcement used carbines extensively from the 1940s through 1980s. Departments maintained carbine armories for decades. Prison guard towers were equipped with carbines from 1950s through 1990s. Some prisons kept them into the 21st century. The civilian market exploded after World War II. Surplus carbines sold for as little as $20 in the 1950s and 60s. Millions of veterans bought them for hunting, target shooting, or home defense. Carbines became popular ranch rifles across the American West and excellent home defense weapons due to adequate power with limited wall penetration. Before we explore why this design endured so remarkably, please subscribe to our channel if you are enjoying this story. We bring detailed military history documentaries every week. Hit subscribe and the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Now let us discover the technical reasons this 80-year-old design refuses to die. This civilian popularity created infrastructure ensuring the carbine's longevity. Commercial manufacturers produced new ammunition continuously from World War II forward. Aftermarket parts suppliers offered every component. Custom gunsmiths specialized in carbine work. The commercial market sustained the carbine long after military retirement. Modern companies began manufacturing new M1 carbines in late 1990s and early 2000s. Auto Ordnance, Inland Manufacturing Reborn, and others sold thousands of new carbines to collectors and shooters who valued the historic design. The spare parts situation was remarkable. Decades after the last military carbine was produced, every single part remained available from multiple suppliers. This parts availability meant carbines could be maintained indefinitely. Ammunition availability matched parts support. Every major American ammunition manufacturer produced 30 carbine ammunition in multiple configurations. The variety exceeded many modern cartridges. The carbine's appearance in modern conflicts proved surprisingly common. Operation Desert Storm in 1991 revealed Iraqi carbines, many still serviceable. The 2003 Iraq invasion revealed similar stockpiles. Afghanistan operations reported encountering carbines in Taliban hands, weapons possibly 60 years old. Syrian civil war footage from 2012 onward showed multiple factions using M1 carbines. African conflicts in the 2000s revealed extensive carbine presence, some manufactured in the 1940s, yet still functional in the 2010s after 7 decades of use. The technical reasons for this longevity are clear. The carbine used simple, robust mechanisms with generous tolerances. Nothing was precision-fitted to where wear caused malfunction. The gas system employed a simple, short-stroke piston that rarely failed. The rotating bolt locked into the barrel extension, a proven design handling pressure safely. Manufacturing quality proved crucial. Despite wartime pressures and $16.50 price, carbines were built to last. Steel components were properly heat-treated. Critical parts were machined from forgings. Quality control created weapons functioning for decades with minimal maintenance. The design's lack of sophistication proved advantageous. No complex systems to fail, no delicate adjustments, no specialized tools required. A competent armorer could completely disassemble and reassemble a carbine using just a cartridge as a tool. Corrosion resistance, while not originally a priority, proved better than contemporary weapons. The chamber and bore, chrome lined in many examples, resisted rust. The external finish protected steel adequately with basic care. The spare parts glut from World War II proved fortuitous. Manufacturers had produced not just 6 million carbines, but spare parts for 30 years of service. When military usage ended, this enormous stockpile entered civilian markets. International licensing expanded the parts pool. South Korea produced carbines domestically for decades. Italy manufactured them under license. This worldwide production created parts compatibility, ensuring any carbine could be maintained using internationally available components. The collector market created additional infrastructure. Enthusiasts wrote reference books documenting every detail. Websites provided technical information. Museums worldwide maintained carbine collections, preserving technical knowledge. Veterans organizations kept practical understanding alive through stories passed to younger generations. The Internet age revolutionized carbine support. Online forums connected thousands of users. YouTube channels demonstrated maintenance. Online retailers made parts globally available. The digital age extended carbine viability by making information universally accessible. This brings the most remarkable aspect. The weapon designed in 13 days for 1650 outlived and outlasted every weapon developed to replace it. The M14 rifle, adopted 1957 to replace the carbine, served only 7 years before the M16 replaced it. The M16, while still in service, has undergone countless modifications over 6 decades. Yet original M1 carbines from 1943 continue functioning perfectly with no modifications. The design military planners initially dismissed proved more enduring than sophisticated weapons costing 100 times more to develop. The cheap compromise for support troops outlasted prestigious infantry rifles designed by committee and tested for years. This longevity stemmed from fundamental wisdom modern engineers often overlook: simplicity over complexity, adequacy over optimization, reliability over maximum performance. The carbine designers understood that a weapon that always works adequately is superior to one that sometimes works superbly. The psychological factors deserve consideration. Soldiers and civilians who used carbines generally liked them. This emotional connection meant owners maintained weapons carefully and passed them to new generations. A weapon people enjoy using tends to remain in service longer. The carbine generated loyalty that sustained it through decades. The economic argument remained compelling. Why spend hundreds or thousands on a new weapon when a $16 rifle from World War II still functioned perfectly? For budget-constrained militaries and police forces worldwide, carbines represented the rational choice decades after supposedly superior weapons became available. As we move into the 21st century, the carbine story continues unexpectedly. Modern reproductions sell steadily to collectors and shooters. Surplus originals, now 75 to 80 years old, command premium prices. The market for carbine parts, accessories, and information remains robust. 8 decades after introduction, militaries and police forces worldwide still maintain carbine inventories, usually in reserve or ceremonial roles. Some nations, particularly in developing regions, continue issuing carbines to troops in non-combat roles. The weapon supposed to arm support personnel for one war continues serving that exact purpose 3 generations later. The lessons of the carbine story resonate beyond small arms development. Speed of development matters. The 13-day design forced decisiveness that multi-year programs lack. Cost constraints force innovation. The $16 price required engineering efficiency expensive programs can ignore. Adequate performance that is reliable trumps superior performance that is not. Purpose-built design works better than one-size-fits-all. The carbine was specifically designed for certain users and roles. It excelled in those applications while accepting limitations elsewhere. Sometimes the simple solution is the best solution. The carbine's lack of sophistication proved advantageous over decades. The modern military-industrial complex could learn from the carbine's example. The weapon designed in less than 2 weeks for pocket change served effectively for 80 years. It armed millions across 3 major wars and dozens of smaller conflicts. It proliferated to over 100 nations. It remains functional 8 decades after introduction. Contemporary weapons development bears little resemblance. Modern rifles cost thousands per unit. Development programs consume billions and stretch across decades. Complexity has increased exponentially, yet the fundamental mission remains unchanged. Provide soldiers reliable weapons that work under combat conditions. The carbine accomplished this for $16 in 1941. Modern equivalents cost 50 times more, adjusted for inflation, while offering capabilities soldiers rarely need. The carbine stands as testament to an era when necessity drove innovation, when time constraints forced decisiveness, when cost limits required engineering efficiency. Those constraints, viewed as obstacles, proved blessings that created a weapon whose service life spans from World War II through the global war on terror. The $16 rifle America never took seriously outlived them all because it was designed to work, not to impress. Today, when hearing a carbine fire at a range, watching one in a demonstration, or seeing one in a museum, remember its unlikely story. Designed in 13 days by a former convict, built for 1650 by jukebox makers and typewriter companies, dismissed as inadequate, mocked as a toy, yet serving in every American war from 1941 to 2021. The M1 carbine proves weapons, like people, should be judged by what they accomplish, not what they cost. The $16 rifle accomplished more than weapons costing hundreds of times its price. It served longer than rifles developed by prestigious design bureaus with unlimited budgets. It armed more soldiers than prestigious infantry weapons, beloved by traditionalists. Corporal James McKinney, pressing against that oak tree in Bastogne on Christmas Eve 1944, holding his $16 carbine as Germans advanced, could not have known his rifle would still be fighting wars 75 years later. He knew only that it worked when he needed it, that it was light enough to carry through days of combat, that it fired fast enough to keep attackers at bay, that it was reliable despite cold, mud, and chaos. That carbine, if it survived, might today be in a museum, a collection, or even still in service somewhere. It might have fought in Korea, Vietnam, countless Cold War conflicts, and modern struggles. It might have armed American paratroopers, Israeli border guards, Philippine jungle fighters, Colombian drug warriors, and African peacekeepers, all in a service life spanning from the greatest generation through millennials into Generation Z. The $16 gun America never took seriously until it outlived them all. A testament to the wisdom of simplicity, the power of adequacy, and the enduring value of weapons that simply work. In a world of expensive sophistication, the humble carbine reminds us that sometimes the best solution is one that gets the job done without fanfare, without complexity, without costing a fortune, and keeps doing it for 80 years, while fancier weapons come and go like fashion trends. The next time someone dismisses a solution as too simple, too cheap, or not sophisticated enough, remember the carbine, designed in 13 days. Built for $16, outlasted everything that competed against it, still firing, still serving, still proving that adequacy with reliability beats sophistication with problems every single time. The $16 rifle won not by being the best, but by being good enough, reliable enough, and simple enough to keep working long after the best guns failed and faded away.